Hi, it's Mark Bossard here, producer of the Pawlik Automotive podcast. We're here with Mr. Bernie Pawlik in Vancouver. How are you doing this morning, Bernie?
I'm doing well.
So 19-time winners of Best Auto Repair in Vancouver and 37 years of repairing vehicles and maintaining vehicles in Vancouver. We're going to talk about a 2002 VW Jetta TDI that wouldn't start. What was going on with this vehicle?
Yeah, so this vehicle was towed to our shop with a no-start condition. The engine would crank over fine, but it just wouldn't catch, wouldn't start. So we did some diagnostics on it, as we usually do, and found a few interesting things.
And what did you find during your diagnosis?
Well, the first thing is the gas gauge was reading fully empty, and that kind of had us concerned. So we talked to the owner, and he said, well, the gas gauge is kind of intermittent. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There was definitely an issue going on with the gas gauge sending unit. And we did verify, in fact, that we couldn't pull any fuel out of the fuel tank. So our first step was to find out, is it actually, in fact, out of fuel? And we did verify that it was out of fuel, but there was another interesting thing that we found in addition to that, too.
So what was the extra problem that you found that was more than just fuel?
So we found actually that even after we'd added fuel, the fuel tank strainer was blocked, and that sits. Fortunately for the client who had a malfunctioning gas gauge, the strainer and the gas gauge sending unit are all one piece. So we pulled. You can access this through the rear of the vehicle. You don't have to drop the fuel tank as you do in a lot of vehicles. We're able to access the fuel pickup unit with the sending assembly, gauge sender assembly through the back seat of the vehicle, under the back seat, and remove it. And we found the strainer was plugged full of debris, which is not an uncommon issue on these vehicles. It does happen from, not a lot, but from time to time. So we'll just go into some pictures right now. So there's a nice specimen of a 2002 VW Jetta TDI. And onto pictures. So this is the fuel sending unit. This is the old one in the vehicle. And this is a sort of bowl where the fuel sits, and its fuel is stored in here, and it's picked up and sucked through here. And you can see all this black debris, and that is basically blocked off the fuel system from sucking any fuel into the fuel pump, the fuel injection pump. So the new unit, which we'll get to right here, that is basically the new fuel sending assembly. So this is the whole unit together. This is the gas gauge sender. So there's a float here, and this floats up and down your gas tank. You can see it's got a little arm, and this will float, move up and down depending on how much fuel's in the vehicle. And this little electrical rheostat here will send a signal to the gas gauge, and then you'll know how much fuel you have. So this item wasn't working. Also, the strainer, which is inside here, that was the picture you're looking at, sort of the view looking down here. That's been replaced. So that kind of killed two birds with one stone in this case.
So I've had a couple newer versions of this vehicle. They were a little bit less forgiving, perhaps, because there were high pressure fuel systems. But I definitely had issues with running biodiesel in cold weather. Was there any kind of issue in that regard? Like, why was there so much dirt in there or debris?
I think it's just that it accumulated over time. I'm not really certain how that dirt got in, but I mean, normally fuel is filtered when you buy it, but it's never 100%. And that's why, vehicles have fuel filters. Although, interestingly enough, most gasoline engines, actually for the last 20 years or more, have actually had the fuel filters been largely eliminated as an extra piece, and it's the actual filtration happens right in the gas tank. And rarely with a gas engine do we ever see any problems, because I think the fuel processing system and delivery is just so clean that it actually works that way. In the past, it wouldn't have been so. But with diesel, I guess, obviously there's some debris and things have accumulated over time. These vehicles usually last a long time too. So it's a 2002, that makes it 16 years old. There's quite a few kilometers and years of pumping fuel through the vehicle. So the debris just builds up.
And as you mentioned, this is a 2002 Jetta. How is it for reliability?
Well, these are still really good vehicles. The fuel system it's more mechanical on this version than it is on the newer ones, and more mechanical, less electronic. And it works really well. I mean, it's kind of a nice sort of era where the blend between the fully mechanical and the more electronic diesels it's kind of halfway in between that. It actually works pretty well. I mean, these cars are getting, they don't have as much value as they used to, so repairs can get expensive, but overall they're still pretty good cars. And the actual base engine itself is really solid. It just often the fuel system starts to cost money when you get to this age of the vehicle. But this is a fairly simple repair and not too costly.
There you go. If you're looking for service for your Jetta TDI or otherwise in Vancouver, the guys to see are Pawlik Automotive. You can reach them at 604-327-7112 to book your appointment. You have to book ahead. They're busy. Or check out their website, pawlikautomotive.com. Our YouTube channel, Pawlik Auto Repair. We've got hundreds of videos on there. Or, of course, hopefully you're listening on our lovely new iTunes podcast here. Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark.